I thought I was building a life with my girlfriend and a career with a team that respected me. Then I found out two people I loved, one at home, one at work, had quietly been using me as a stepping stone. I didn't explode. I didn't get even in some dramatic way. I just waited, kept receipts, and made one calm move that changed everything. I'm a guy in my early 30s. At the time all this went down, I was 32, living in a mid-sized city, working as a product analyst at a tech-ish company that liked to call itself a family on LinkedIn. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't the loud alpha guy in meetings. I was the dependable one. I were the you can throw anything at him and he'll figure it out guy. The kind of guy who ends up doing half the work because he hates letting deadlines slip. I'd been dating Maya for 4 years. We met through mutual friends at a birthday party where everyone was pretending not to be tired. She was smart, funny, and had this gift for making people feel like they mattered. She worked in marketing for a different company. She didn't make a huge deal about money, but she cared about ambition, being on a trajectory, as she liked to say. My work life was stable. I liked my manager, liked my team, and I especially liked one coworker, Evan. Evan and I were close enough that coworkers joked we were a married couple. We grabbed coffee, traded dumb memes, and vented about corporate nonsense. He was charming, very good at talking, very good at making people laugh. He had that easy confidence where he could walk into a room and instantly become the guy. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy who makes sure the room has data and the project has a plan. At home, life was comfortable. Not perfect, but good. Maya and I talked about moving in together officially. She basically lived at my place already. Maybe getting engaged in the next year or two. We had a little routine. Sunday grocery run, weeknight takeout, Friday night movie, and 2 drinks max because we were adults now. That's what made it so disorienting later. Because the betrayal didn't arrive like a thunderclap. It arrived like a slow leak. It started with tiny things, the kind you feel guilty for noticing. At work, Evan began helping me more. Sounds nice, right? Except it wasn't help, it was hovering. He'd ask questions like, "Hey, can you send me that deck you built? I just want to understand the flow." Or, "Can you drop your analysis in the shared folder? I want to reference it for my talking points." I didn't think much of it at first. We were on the same project. Sharing is normal. I told myself, don't be weird. Don't be territorial. Then he started speaking for me in meetings. I'd say, "I looked at churn by cohort, and it spikes after week 3. And Evan would jump in, smiling. "Yeah, exactly. So what we're seeing is that retention drops after week 3, which suggests we need a reactivation strategy earlier." Which, yes, that's what I said, but somehow the room reacted like Evan had delivered the insight. People nodded at him. They wrote down his words. He tossed me a glance like, "Teamwork, bro." At home, Maya started making comments that were probably meant to be motivational, but landed like little needles. "Have you thought about pushing for a title change? You're really good at what you do, but you don't sell it. You let people talk over you." I'd laugh it off. Yeah, I'll become a LinkedIn influencer overnight." She didn't laugh back. Then her phone habits changed. Nothing dramatic, just she started flipping it face down. She started leaving the room for certain calls. She started texting with her back turned. I tried to be normal about it. I didn't want to be the guy who becomes a detective because his girlfriend shifted her posture slightly. But the universe has this cruel sense of timing, because the moment I started feeling uneasy at home was the moment things at work got overt. We had a big quarterly planning meeting, director-level people, the kind of meeting where careers quietly move up or down. I'd spent nights building a forecasting model, cleaning messy data, and translating it into something executives could actually digest. I was proud of it. Not post on social media. Proud. Just proud. The meeting starts. My manager introduces the project. Then Evan stands up and says, "I'll walk everyone through what we built." What we built. He clicks through slides. My charts. even the tiny formatting quirks I always use without thinking. He speaks smoothly, confident, like he owns the work. I wait for the moment where he says, OP did the heavy lifting on the model, or OP built the forecast. Something. Anything. It doesn't happen. At one point, someone asks a technical question about an assumption I made in the model. Evan pauses for half a beat, just long enough to remind everyone he didn't actually build it, and then answers with a vague non-answer. Before I can jump in, our director says, "This is excellent work, Evan. Really strong." And Evan, with a humble little shrug, says, "Thanks, I've been living in spreadsheets." I remember this weird physical sensation, like my stomach went cold. I looked around the room and realized nobody was looking at me. Not because they hated me, because in their minds, I wasn't central to this anymore. I was the supporting character in my own work. After the meeting, I pulled Evan aside. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice light. "That was my deck." He blinked like he didn't understand English. Then he smiled. "Dude, it's our deck. We're on the same team." "Sure," I said, "but you didn't mention me once." He did this little laugh. "Oh my God, you're not serious. You want me to, shout you out like an award speech?" I stared at him. He kept smiling like I was being adorable. "Just next time," I said. "Give credit where it's due." He put his hand on my shoulder like we were in a sports movie. "Of course, don't overthink it." That night I got home to Maya. She was on the couch, phone in hand, smiling at something. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she said too quickly, sliding her phone under a cushion like it was a reflex. I sat down and tried to tell her about the meeting, not in a whiny way, just sharing my day. She listened, but her eyes were somewhere else. When I finished, she shrugged. Maybe Evan's just better at presenting. That was it. That was her takeaway. Not, "That sucks." Not, "You should talk to your manager." Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "Maybe he's better." Something in me flinched. A week later, the proof arrived in the dumbest possible way. A calendar invite. I got an invite to a meeting titled Forecast Model Deep Dive, Evan presenting, and attached to the invite was a link to the deck I built, but the author name on the file had been changed, not just last edited by Evan. The title slide had a footer that read, "Prepared by Evan," last name. I'm not a dramatic person, but I actually laughed out loud, alone at my desk, because it was so blatant it felt surreal, like a prank show. Then, that same day, I walked into my apartment early because my afternoon meeting got canceled. Maya's shoes were by the door, which was normal, but there was another pair of shoes, men's shoes, near the entryway. My brain tried to be rational. Maybe maintenance, maybe her brother. Maybe she bought shoes. Then I heard laughter from the kitchen. A man's laughter. I stepped in quietly, heart pounding. And there he was, Evan, standing in my kitchen like he belonged there, holding a mug I bought at a thrift store because Maya said it was cute. Maya was leaning against the counter, laughing too hard at something he said, her hand resting on his forearm, in that casual way that's only casual if it's already happened 100 times. The room went still when they saw me. Evan's smile didn't even fade. He just raised his eyebrows like, "Oh, hey." Maya's face did this quick shift. Surprise, then calculation. "Hey," she said, "you're home early." I looked at Evan. "What's he doing here?" Evan took a sip of my coffee like he was auditioning for the role of villain in a low-budget drama. "We ran into each other," he said. "Maya said you wouldn't mind." I kept my voice steady. "In my apartment." Maya rushed in, soft voice, palms out like she was calming a wild animal. "It's not what you think." I said. "Okay. Then what is it?" Silence. Evan set the mug down slowly. "Bro," he said like I was embarrassing him. "Don't make this a thing." That's when it clicked. Not are they cheating? Not is he stealing credit? It clicked that they both viewed me as someone who could be managed. Like my feelings were just obstacles to navigate around. Maya finally spoke. "We've been talking." "Talking," I repeated. She swallowed. "About life, about goals, about," Evan cut in, smiling, "about how you deserve to advocate for yourself more, man. Like, truly." I stared at him. "Get out." Maya snapped. "Don't be immature." I looked at her. "Immature?" "He's in my kitchen." Evan held up his hands. Okay, I'll go." He walked toward the door, but as he passed me, he leaned in slightly and said under his breath, still smiling, "You're going to ruin your own life if you keep being so sensitive." Then he left. Maya stood there, arms crossed, jaw tight. "You're overreacting." I asked her the question that felt like swallowing glass. "Are you sleeping with him?" Her eyes darted away. That was my answer. The next 2 weeks were a blur of arguments that never resolved because the truth kept shifting. Maya's version of events changed depending on what I asked. At first, it was just emotional. Then, it only happened once. Then, we were having problems anyway. Then, you're always working, you're never present. And my personal favorite, I didn't think you'd care this much. At work, Evan acted like nothing happened. He'd message me, "You good?" He'd wave at me in the hallway. He'd even try to joke. And then he'd go into meetings and present my work like he invented math. I went to my manager. I tried to be professional. "I need to talk about the forecasting deck," I said. "I built it. Evan presented it without credit, and he changed the author name." My manager frowned in that "I don't want conflict" way. Evan said it was collaborative. "It wasn't," I said. "I can show you file history." My manager sighed. "Look, I'm not saying you didn't contribute, but Evan has a talent for storytelling. Leadership notices that." There it was. The corporate translation. You did the work. He did the glory. I tried again. "This is more than credit. It's my career." My manager leaned back. "Do you want to escalate this? Because that creates friction." Friction. Like I was the problem for not enjoying being used. At home, Maya tried to flip the script into me being controlling. "You don't own me," she said, tears conveniently appearing at the right moments. "I'm not claiming to own you," I said. "I'm asking why you lied and brought him into my home." She wiped her face dramatically. "Because I knew you'd react like this." My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. React like what? Like a person who doesn't want his girlfriend cheating with his coworker? She snapped, "You're making it sound so ugly." "It is ugly," I said. She stared at me like I'd just broken some unspoken rule. Like I was supposed to accept the sanitized version. It's complicated, feelings happened, no one's at fault. But someone was at fault. They just didn't want to be that person. Eventually, Maya moved out. Sort of. She took some clothes, left behind random things like a toothbrush, and said she needed space. Then she started posting on social media, like she was going through a spiritual transformation. Quotes about growth, photos of sunsets, captions like, "choosing peace." Meanwhile, I was sleeping 2 hours a night and replaying every conversation of the last year like my brain was trying to find the exact moment I became a joke. At work, Evan got invited into leadership meetings I wasn't included in. His calendar went from normal to terrifying. People started calling him the forecast guy. I heard one coworker say, "Evan's model is really impressive." His model. I went to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror like I was checking whether I still existed. I wish I could tell you I immediately got angry and turned into some confident hero. I didn't. My first emotion was disbelief, like my life had been swapped with someone else's, and any second now someone would say, "Gotcha." Then came humiliation, not just my girlfriend cheated. Plenty of people go through that. It was the double layer. She cheated with someone who was actively taking my work, my time, my effort, and turning it into his personal brand. And it felt like they were both saying the same thing in different languages. You're useful, but you're not important. I started questioning everything about myself. Was I boring? Was I naive? Was I the guy people smile at while they take what they want? Every time I opened my laptop, I felt this weight in my chest. My brain kept looping. Why didn't you see it? Why didn't you stop it? I stopped going to the gym. I stopped cooking. I ate like garbage because it was easier than thinking. My apartment felt haunted. Every object had a memory attached. The mug Evan held. The couch Maya cried on. The stupid thrift store painting she insisted we hang. Friends tried to help, but I was embarrassed. I didn't want to be the guy whose life turned into a cliché. And the worst part? Evan wasn't even cruel in an obvious way. That would have been easier. He was polite, smiling, calm. Like he was the reasonable one, and I was the unstable guy who couldn't handle adult life. That's what messed with me the most. The gaslighting wasn't dramatic. It was subtle. It was the constant implication that I was irrational for having boundaries. I started drafting angry emails I never sent. I started rehearsing confrontations in my head. I imagined exposing them in public, posting screenshots, humiliating them. And then, one night at around 3 a.m., I realized something that made me sit up in bed. The reason they were winning wasn't because they were smarter than me. It was because they were comfortable being shameless. They weren't weighed down by guilt. They weren't debating whether they were being too much. They just took. And I had been trained to avoid conflict so hard that I was basically handing them the keys. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to try to make them understand. I was going to be calm. And I was going to be precise. Here's the thing about corporate life. People love confidence, but they fear documentation. I started collecting everything, not in a creepy way, in a protect yourself way. I pulled file histories showing my original drafts. I exported Slack messages where Evan asked for my decks to reference. I gathered calendar invites where he was listed as presenter with my work attached. I kept notes of meetings, who said what decisions were made, and who was credited. I didn't tell anyone I was doing this. At the same time, I stopped being helpful in the way I used to be. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't withhold necessary information. I simply stopped rescuing Evan. When he messaged, "Hey, can you send the updated model?" I replied, "Sure. Which assumptions are you changing? Put it in a ticket so it's tracked." When he asked, "Can you jump into the meeting and explain the cohort piece?" I replied, "I'm booked. Feel free to use the documentation I wrote." He didn't like that. One day he cornered me near the coffee machine. "Are you mad at me?" I looked him in the eye and said, "I'm professional." He laughed like it was a joke. "Come on, man, don't be like that." "I'm professional," I repeated. You could see the irritation flash for half a second before he smoothed it over. That's when I knew he needed my emotional access. He needed me pliable. At home, Maya tried to check in with me in this detached way, like we were coworkers ending a project. "I hope you're okay," she texted. I hate how things ended. I stared at the message for a long time and realized there was no apology in it. Just a wish for a different outcome that didn't require responsibility. So I responded with one sentence. "I'm not interested in staying in contact. No fight, no essay, just a boundary." She replied with, "Wow, okay." And that was it. The revenge moment didn't happen in one dramatic scene. It happened when I stopped giving them access to my time, my labor, and my emotional energy. But there was one moment that felt like a movie, and it was completely quiet. A month later, leadership scheduled a meeting. Forecast model review, Q4. Evan was presenting again. I was invited, which was interesting because lately I'd been excluded from anything high level. That's when I realized something else. The model was breaking. Evan had been taking credit, but he didn't fully understand how to maintain it. In the meeting, he started confidently. He clicked through slides. He used all the right buzzwords. Then the CFO asked a simple question. What changed in the assumptions between last quarter and this quarter? Evan froze. He tried to bluff. We adjusted for seasonality. The CFO frowned. How? Evan looked around, eyes landing on me for just a fraction too long, like he expected me to jump in and save him. I didn't. I sat there, hands folded, neutral expression. The room got quiet in that uncomfortable way where everyone realizes someone is faking competence. Evan tried again. We basically normalized the curve. The CFO leaned forward. That's not an explanation. My director looked annoyed. OP, she said suddenly. Can you speak to this? You're close to the details. There it was. An opening. Not to be petty. Not to humiliate him. Just to tell the truth. I said calmly, yes, I can. But first I want to clarify something for context. Everyone looked at me. I continued, still calm. I built the original forecasting model and documentation. Evan has been presenting it, which is fine, but the recent changes weren't reviewed with me. That's why he may not have the specifics. Silence. Evan's face went tight. The director blinked. You built it. Yes, I said. I can share file history and the implementation notes if helpful. The CFO nodded slowly. Please do. Evan tried to speak. Some version of, we all contributed, but it came out messy and defensive. I didn't pile on. I didn't smirk. I didn't say a single cruel thing. I just opened my laptop and shared my screen. I walked them through the model like I always could. Clear assumptions, data sources, limitations, what I recommended next. People started asking me questions directly, not Evan. At the end, the CFO said, "Thank you. This is the clarity I was looking for." And then my director said something I will never forget. OP, why haven't we been hearing more from you on this? I shrugged lightly. I haven't been asked. That was the revenge. Not because Evan got publicly destroyed. He didn't. Nobody yelled. Nobody pointed and laughed. But the room saw the truth. They saw who built the thing they were relying on. And Evan, who had built his little identity on borrowing my competence, had to sit there and watch it happen. After the meeting, he cornered me again, voice low, angry. What the hell was that? I kept my voice even. That was me answering a question. You made me look bad. I looked at him. No, you did. He stared at me like he couldn't compute that I wasn't afraid anymore. Then he walked away. 2 days later, my manager scheduled a check-in. He tried to soften it. We want to make sure you feel recognized. I smiled politely. I appreciate that. He offered me a small title adjustment, not a real promotion, a "we fixed it" label. I asked, will Evan be corrected publicly? My manager hesitated. That could be delicate. I nodded. Then I'm not interested. That's the part people don't get sometimes. The revenge wasn't forcing an apology. It wasn't getting Evan fired. It was refusing to accept crumbs after being treated like a resource. I updated my resume. I reached out to a recruiter who'd been pinging me for months. Within 6 weeks, I had an offer for a better role at a company with better pay, a clearer ladder, and a manager who actually asked questions like, what do you want to grow into? On my last day, I sent a short farewell email. No bitterness, just polite thanks. Evan didn't come say goodbye. Maya found out through a mutual friend that I'd changed jobs and apparently told someone, good for him. Like she was proud of me the way you're proud of a dog that finally learned a trick. I never responded. I blocked her number. Not out of spite, out of peace. The lesson I wish I learned earlier is simple, and it sucks. Some people don't betray you because you did something wrong. They betray you because you made it easy. I don't mean that as blame. I mean it as reality. I was so focused on being reasonable, being kind, being the good guy, that I ignored the quiet signs that I was surrounded by people who measured relationships in terms of advantage. Evan didn't steal my work because he hated me. He stole it because he could. Maya didn't lie because she was confused. She lied because honesty would have cost her comfort. And the revenge, the real revenge, wasn't making them suffer. It was removing myself from the role they cast me in. I stopped auditioning for their approval. I stopped explaining my boundaries like they were negotiation points. I stopped handing over my effort to people who saw it as their entitlement. These days, my life is quieter. I'm back at the gym. I cook again. My apartment feels like mine. Sometimes I still get angry when I think about it. I don't think that ever fully goes away. But the anger doesn't control me now. It's just a reminder. Pay attention. Protect your work. Protect your heart. If you're reading this and you're in something similar where you feel used, minimized, quietly replaced, please hear me. You don't need a dramatic explosion. You need clarity. You need receipts. And you need the courage to walk away without begging anyone to understand why. Because the right people won't need you to explain basic respect.